I'm doing my best to explain it to you guys. I'm doing my best to make sense of it. But with this medicine, it is really something that cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. And I want to take that with me into my life, right? Maybe life is not something that needs to be explained or is to be explained. Life is something to be experienced. Welcome to Modern Psychedelics, where we explore the transformations made possible through intentional engagement with psychedelics. This podcast will help you integrate high consciousness living into the everyday and deepen the work ignited by altered states. You can expect balanced and grounded conversations around therapeutic, ceremonial, and recreational containers. My name is Lana Pribic, your host and guide. I am a 3-time certified professional life coach, and I work with people who want to integrate higher levels of consciousness into their daily lives so they can feel more peace, fulfillment, and connection. After all, our time here on Earth is so brief, so let's make sure we're really living. The song you hear is called Lost Horizon by Peace Sign. All right, let's journey. Setting aside the time, energy, and money for a full psychedelic experience can be a lot. That's why I love Kanna. It's a gentle ally for daily support that actually gives results. Kanna is a succulent from South Africa that has been traditionally used by indigenous communities such as the Khoi and the San people for mood enhancement, stress relief, and spiritual practices. Kanna is an empathogen, so it helps emphasize feelings of connectedness, open-heartedness, and calm. It also happens to be pretty well researched. In fact, one of the active alkaloids in Kanna is prescribed as a pharmaceutical for anxiety and depression. The best part is that it's completely legal in North America and sold as a health product. But the Kanna supplements you'll find in stores is table grade, so they're not active in the alkaloids that make a difference. Kanna Extract Co. is leading the way in creating quality, potent extracts. Their signature extraction process ensures absolute purity and precise alkaloid profiles. For you, this means unparalleled potency and the amazing felt effects. If you want to learn more about this plant medicine, check out episode 74 with Ryan Luttrell. Kanna Extract Co. also ethically sources their medicine, working with growers who uphold benefit sharing agreements with traditional knowledge keepers, and we love that. Start your journey with Kanna today. Visit kannaextract.com and you can use Lana at checkout to save 10%. That's Kanna Extract, KANNA extract.com, and use Lana, LANA, at checkout to save 10% off your first order. All right, back to the episode. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. So I have to say, I'm a little bit nervous for today's episode. It's a big one. And yeah, I don't know if I've ever been this nervous to share with you guys before and to be this vulnerable, but here we go. So exactly 1 month ago today on the dot, it's Thursday today, exactly 4 Thursdays ago, I took part in a 5-MeO DMT ceremony and retreat experience. And yeah, I have a lot to share. It was very beautiful, very, very paradigm shifting. So in this episode, I'm going to be giving you a detailed, in-depth, very vulnerable report of the entire process, the prep, my intentions, the ceremony itself, the retreat experience, and the landing back period. Because as you know, psychedelic experiences go beyond just the substance, beyond just the experience itself. So I just want to start with a little bit of background information about what 5-MeO DMT is. So 5-MeO DMT, or 5 as I'll refer to it, is a molecule found in various plants around the world, but it is most famously found in the Bufo alvarius, or the Sonoran desert toad. And this toad creates a secretion, and when it is dried and smoked by humans, don't ask how we figured this out because I have no idea, it does create a pretty profound effect. And it is also called the God molecule, and for good reason, but more on that later. So it's most commonly smoked. However, it can also be consumed intravenously or intramuscularly. 5-MeO DMT is not psychedelic in the sense that you would think of most psychedelics. It's more of an entheogen. It's not very visual. surprisingly. And the visual aspect of 5-MeO is not really the most important or the main or even the most memorable component of this molecule. It's actually a very somatic and a very nervous system based medicine, and the depth of this actually really surprised me. You don't get too many visuals with 5-MeO DMT as opposed to how many you would get with regular. So 5-MeO DMT and NN-DMT, though they are molecularly similar, they have very different phenomenology. Like I said, it's less of a psychedelic, more of a pure entheogen. So an entheogen is something that generates the divine within. That's the Latin root of the word. And honestly, it takes you directly to oneness, unity, God, non-duality, infinite love. It's hard to explain, but that is why it is called the God molecule. And it is perhaps the most intense psychedelic known to man. I did Iboga 1 year ago, as you guys know, and I had a lot to share about that. I didn't think it could get more intense than Iboga. And yeah, wow, I think that 5-MeO in a lot of ways was more intense for me personally. If you do want to learn more about 5-MeO, just pause this episode, go to my backlog and download episode 8 with Steve Rio. He was an OG guest on the show 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and listen to that episode because we cover a lot more about that. But I'll just leave it there and move on. Before I get into my experience, I just want to put out a few notes. So just a little bit of like a trigger warning. Yeah, what I share in this episode is very intense and it's very vulnerable. So please take this episode in with love and compassion and openness. And I would suggest to only listen to this episode if you are ready to receive a psychedelic experience, a trip report that is very out of the ordinary. So that's my little trigger warning. And as a reminder, this is my experience. And everyone's experience is different. So please just watch the tendency to compare or to set expectations, especially if you have not journeyed with this yet. Please, just be very aware of setting expectations for your own journey as a result of listening to mine, because yours will be different. My hope is to share and inspire, because I believe that these substances have so much to offer humanity and they've offered me so much, and that's why I share. And a little ethical disclaimer, just to be really transparent. I attended a retreat in British Columbia called Enfold, and this was in exchange for sharing about my journey, my integration process with all of you. Steve and Austin, who are the owners of the retreat, let me know that I am the first person who has had an opportunity to do this with them. And I think that just goes to show that this was a very aligned and considered partnership between the three of us. So just want to lay that all out there. But everything that I'm sharing with you guys about my experience is vulnerable, honest, and is coming from me. So now that that's out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about how I received the call to 5-MeO DMT and my intention. I've known about 5-MeO DMT for a very long time, and I've been very curious about it, but I never wanted to try it because it sounded way too intense, way too out there. And for the longest time, I just had absolutely no interest in blasting off and out of this reality, right? I couldn't even imagine just blasting out of my body. I couldn't imagine how I would be able to integrate such an intense experience into the human experience. And honestly, I just felt that these blast off experiences had nothing to do with being a human and were really none of my concern. And all of that started changing after I experienced Iboga. It was only after that I seriously started to consider sitting with 5-MeO. And that is because I listened to an interview with Trisha Eastman. She's a past guest of the podcast. Love her so much. And she and her partner were talking about how when we think of a Christmas tree, Iboga is the roots of the tree and 5-MeO is the star at the top. I started to have this curiosity about, what lies above? What is that star at the top? And that curiosity eventually became greater than the fear of 5. And then I knew that I was ready for the experience. And just a fun fact, I actually sat with Iboga and 5-MeO exactly a year apart, like off by a couple of days. I think it was November 18th, 2022 and November 16th, 2023, which is so wild. But on the other side of both of these medicines, I now see that Iboga is, for me, the truth of what it means to be a human on Earth, whereas 5-MeO is the great mystery of the universe. And I think in a lot of ways, being a human does mean understanding both of these things. And Iboga was about duality and the duality that we face here on Earth, whereas 5 was complete non-duality. So lots to integrate. Okay, so at this point, I want to get into my experience, the retreat, my experience at Enfold, and the ceremony and what came out of that. So yeah, the Enfold retreat was absolutely amazing. It was 4 days, and me and 3 other attendees arrived on the Wednesday night. We had an all-women's group, which was really special. And yeah, the property was just absolutely gorgeous. It's like being in a Pacific Northwest dreamscape. There's ocean and mountains and these towering evergreens, and it was just such a beautiful setting. And it's not very far from Vancouver, the city. And yeah, we had this beautiful welcome dinner. I immediately felt that I was in such good hands. I've had a rapport and a relationship with Steve for about 3 years now. I always knew that if and when I was ready to do this medicine, it would be with him, because I just felt a great deal of respect for him and the work that he's doing. So it was beautiful to finally meet him in person, as we've been in touch sporadically over the years. And I got to meet his wife, Austin, who I had heard so much about, but she doesn't really have a public presence. So I didn't get to experience her energy until I was in person with her. And wow, she is just such a beautiful earth angel, living, breathing, sharing love. So yeah, it was just like a very beautiful landing. And their home is absolutely stunning and comfortable, and you're invited into their home for this experience. And I personally love that. I love retreats where we are invited into this like family setting. So yeah, after the welcome dinner, which was absolutely delicious and made me trust them. Everything was dairy-free and gluten-free and so delicious. Austin is an incredible chef. I felt like I was eating at a Michelin star restaurant the entire time. But after that, we had a gentle breath work and an opening circle where we shared our intentions. And I want to be honest with you guys, I actually felt really guilty as I was sitting in that opening circle, as we were sharing our intentions, because yeah, if you've been following along with my journey, you'll know that I've really reached a place in my healing journey where I don't feel like I'm healing anymore. I really feel so at peace with myself in so many ways. And there was this guilt around that. There was this guilt of, do I deserve to be here? Is it okay for me to be here? Is it okay for me to be having this experience if I don't necessarily need it? And I expressed that to the group. And at the same time, there's always more things that we can work on, more ways to improve. And I love having these experiences, sharing them with you guys, because I feel like after each one of these experiences, I get to come back and bring even more purpose and intentionality to what I'm doing with the podcast and what I'm sharing with you all. And yeah, it's really beautiful to, through this work, touch you guys. But yeah, I felt a lot of guilt, but in a way, what I really was looking for was for the medicine to show me what I'm reaching for in life. I went along with that analogy of the star on the top of the tree. Like, what am I really reaching for? And let me tell you, the medicine definitely showed me what I'm reaching for. But I did have 5 very specific intentions that I wanted to bring with me. So I'll just share them with you guys. Number 1 was help me release the blocks I have around financial abundance and romantic love. So these are the 2 areas in my life where I don't feel as satisfied as I could. Whereas in most other areas, I do feel very satisfied. So I wanted to work on that. I asked the medicine to help me heal or reset my nervous system from any wartime trauma that I may be holding on to. I don't know if you guys know, but I was actually 6 months old when war broke out in my ancestral land of former Yugoslavia. So I feel that I've been carrying something in my body, in my nervous system, and I wanted to release that with this medicine that I knew was very impactful for nervous system resets. Number 3 was help me find focus and clarity around my career. Number 4, show me love. And number 5, help me release anger towards my father. And yeah, that feels very vulnerable to share with you guys. But again, that's here to be vulnerable. And I know you guys appreciate my vulnerability, but I just feel that even though I made so much progress with my dad, there's like this anger that I had been holding on to for him. And it like comes out in these like micro moments with him. So yeah, I was really wanting some transformation around that. And these intentions felt really powerful and alive for me. If you guys need help with intention setting, I released an episode, I believe it's 77. Yeah, 77 around intention setting that can help you create intentions that are just as powerful and alive for you. So let's get into the ceremony, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. So Thursday morning and afternoon, the ceremonies took place, and each of the retreat attendees had a chance to have a private ceremony with Steve and Austin. So we each had a time slot, and we went to the gorgeous, beautiful, light-filled and love-filled ceremony room. And before that, in the morning, we actually all got together and we did a somatic grounding. We had very gentle movement and breath work. And this was so helpful because it actually helped to prepare for the body to open up, the nervous system to open up for the ceremony to receive this really intense medicine. And Steve and Austin really took us through how to work with the medicine, with our bodies, how to actually smoke it and receive it. And yeah, just how to open up to the experience in ceremony. And for me, it was very helpful. And I feel like I applied every single thing that they taught us to the ceremony. We also had a beautiful opening prayer that is, the Enfold prayer that Steve and Austin put together. So beautiful. And I was journaling that day after our group opening ceremony, and before my ceremony was around 1:30 in the afternoon. So I had some time, and I was journaling about how scared and nervous I was because this was going to be a totally new psychedelic experience for me. I was very comfortable and used to these like very earth-based medicines, to kind of dark medicines, to exploring my darkness, to exploring my humanity. And I knew that this was going to be something completely different. I was really nervous. I was really scared, but I was also really excited. I was excited. And as time for my ceremony came, Steve came to get me, and there was just no turning back at that point. And I just couldn't believe I was on the mattress. I was really scared, you guys. And I just a note on like recalling the ceremony. So there's something called a whiteout that happens with 5-MeO. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is common, where you do lose consciousness. You leave. You're gone. Where do you go? I'm really not sure. I'm still trying to make sense of that myself, but I did lose consciousness, and I don't remember consciously some parts of the ceremony. And one thing I do love about the way that they did things at Enfold was they asked permission to take photos and videos during ceremony. And I was like, yes, please take all the photos and all the videos. I want all of them. And that actually helped me recall and remember some of the moments in ceremony that I couldn't consciously remember. But as I'm sharing what happened in the ceremony, it comes from my recollection, the photos and videos, and then also some notes that Steve took during the ceremonies and was kind enough to share with me for the purpose of retelling this to you guys. So there's 3 doses that they give: the handshake, the hug, and the full release. Each one gets higher in intensity and dosage. So the handshake, you guys, wow. when I finally worked up the courage to receive the medicine, let me tell you, I was expecting something similar to like an NN-DMT microdose, which I've done many times. That's what I was expecting, and wow. It was pretty different. It was pretty different. Yeah. After Steve served the medicine to me, I finished inhaling, and as I take the last puff of medicine, Steve and Austin start counting down 10, 9, 8, 7. By the time they got to 5, I was full on having auditory hallucinations, and everything just started melting away. It's hard to explain what happened or where I went. I don't know where I went, but it was really deep. And actually, they told me that it's not very common for such a small dose of 5-MeO to have an effect like this, but I went in right away, basically. I didn't fully leave. I was still present to have an awareness of what was going on. My ego, myself, were still present to observe it, but it was pretty intense. And what came out of me during this handshake was just the start of what would be many physical and emotional releases throughout the ceremony. So I did remain sitting up for this one, just barely. And what happened as the medicine started taking effect over me, I actually started shaking my head completely involuntarily. I did not have control over this, but I was just shaking my head. And as I was shaking my head, these sounds were coming out of me. They referred to it as vocal toning. So these like vocal toning sounds, almost like ohms, started coming out of my mouth, again, completely involuntarily. Not exactly screams, just these noises. In Steve's note, it says that it was a natural release with no resistance, which I find interesting because I guess I tried to resist it, but then at one point it just was so strong that there was nothing to do but to surrender. And as I started to come back and out of the experience, I felt a rush of every single emotion possible: anger, sadness, grief, happiness, joy. I was just experiencing the fullness of emotion, the spectrum of emotion that I have access to as a human being. And then in this moment, I felt this deep grief. I really connected to this deep grief inside of me. And I just started crying, and it was like, wow, I hadn't cried like that in such a long time, but I don't know what it was. I don't really care what it was. I'm happy it's out of me. I'm happy I expressed it. But yeah, it was just like this really deep grief. And I let it out. And then there was laughing. And then there was more crying. And then there was more laughing. And I started coming back and being able to speak. And I just said, gosh, like, it's just so good to be alive. And I was looking out at the view and the perfect blue sky, and I said, what a perfect day. It was really profound. And then once I was really back, when my mind was really back and out of the experience, I realized how sacred and special this opportunity to be doing this medicine here with Steve and Austin was. It really hit me in that moment how profound this work was and how profound it was to be able to have this experience. And then I started to get scared because I was like, wow, I'm about to go in and do some really serious work. Whoa, this is scary. I'm scared. And then Steve was like, okay, by the way, this was all within the span of about 12 minutes that this happened, from smoking it to me coming fully back. And Steve was like, okay, how do you feel about going deeper? And I was just like, what the F do you mean going deeper? Like, how can it possibly go deeper than that? And yeah, apparently this was a 6 out of 10 intensity. But yeah, I had to work up the courage to go back in, because it was just unlike anything I've ever experienced before, nor could I have even fathomed what that experience would have been like. And then this like inner warrior started to activate within me, and I transformed my fear into fearlessness in that moment in the ceremony. I said out loud, like, why am I so afraid? This is an experience that's just so different. But why am I afraid of something just because it's different? And that kind of gave me the courage, that mindset gave me the courage to go back in. And yeah, with that, I took the hug, the medium dose. I smoked it the same way. And by the time they got to 6, I was gone. Again, strong auditory hallucinations. The music started melting away. Their voices started melting away. And I'm pretty sure I just laid back on my back and took it from there. I had a huge physical release. There was thrashing, tremoring, shrieking, very loud screaming and yelling, actually horrific sounding, like terrifying sounding screaming and yelling that was going on, which I remember some of, but I don't remember some of. Thankfully, I had these videos to go off of to see what my experience was. And for most of this dose, I was completely gone. I had the whiteout. I wasn't experiencing anything at all. I was not there. There was nothing. I was completely gone. And yeah, while I was gone from the videos, I could see like I was having an exorcism. In one of the videos, I had like I was on my back screaming, and my legs, my hands, my arms, my midsection, my entire body was just shaking and letting tremors out and just releasing. And as I started to come back, the first thing I do remember was just touching my face and just saying thank you. And I was just touching my face and touching myself and just saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have a video of that, which is really beautiful. But gosh, I just felt so grateful to be here in a body. Here. I just felt so grateful. And the first thing that came into my visual awareness was light, white light. I remember opening my eyes, but I couldn't see anything but white light. And then as time went on, Steve and Austin's faces started to materialize in front of me. And I remember looking up and I just saw Steve's face and everything just came back to me immediately. I knew I was with Steve. I was with Austin. I was in a 5-MeO DMT experience. I was in a ceremony. And that kind of gave this context of where the fuck did I just go? So here's my not so secret. The number one tool in my toolkit, the thing that has changed my life for the better the most, aside from psychedelics, of course, is not therapy. It's not breath work. It's not meditation. It's not even the yoga I've been doing for 15 years. It's coaching. Because coaching is the most actionable tool that I have come across. A few years ago, I fired my therapist and hired a coach, and working with a coach helped me start moving in the direction I wanted to move. And I finally stopped feeling stuck. I fell so in love with coaching, even though I wanted to become a therapist at that time. I decided instead to get trained and certified as a professional coach. As a psychedelics informed life coach, I work with people who are on the psychedelic path, which is probably you if you're listening to this podcast. The Global Coaching Client Study from the International Coaching Federation shows most clients who work with a professional coach report improved work performance, more growth and opportunities, greater self-confidence, enhanced relationships, more effective communication skills, better work and life balance, and an improvement in wellness. According to the same study, 99% of people who were polled said that they were somewhat or very satisfied with the overall coaching experience. Coaching works. I see similar results amongst my clients every week. You can actually read their beautiful in-depth testimonials on my website at modernpsychedelics.net. Along with being psychedelics informed, my style is process oriented. We live in this outcome obsessed world where our default mode is to live life for the destination or the end result. But I have come to understand that the gifts are actually in the journey, and that's where we grow and learn and enjoy life the most. So that's why I equip my clients with tools and skills for the long game of life and the long game of medicine work. I'm currently onboarding new one-on-one clients into my coaching practice. So if this sounds like it would be supportive for where you're at, get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you. And you can click on the link in the show notes or head to modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. There's lots of info there for you along with those testimonials. I can't wait to connect with you. That's modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. Okay, let's go back to the episode. The first words that came out of my mouth while I was laughing was just receive. I said, just receive. And I laughed because it was so funny to me that I never realized that all I have to do is receive. That, gosh, there's so many gifts and so much love and so much beauty and so much abundance already around me. I've been so busy striving and seeking and searching for more that throughout all of that, I forgot to just open myself to receive everything I already do have and everything that already is in my reach and everything that is available to me. So yeah, just receive. That was the golden nugget for me. And I just felt so much gratitude in my heart. I felt so much love. I was telling Steve and Austin how grateful I was to have met them both, how grateful I was to be here. I said the words, I love humanity. And I do, I really do. I love humanity. And I said, it's so beautiful. And at this point, coming out of this hug dose, I felt that I was starting to understand 5-MeO, the somatic release. And I was saying something about like how this is the perfect match for me and talking about how it was like the missing piece and how the energy was starting to match, how I was receiving so much information. I was just like babbling these words, and thankfully Steve captured most of them in his notes. And yeah, this one was a 9 out of 10 intensity. It was a pretty big release. And after this experience, after receiving all the love and all the gratitude and all of that wisdom, man, I was ready for the third one. I was like, I'm not afraid anymore. I said, I'm not afraid anymore. And I willingly, resistance-free, went into the third dose. Isn't that fucking amazing? That I went from being so scared, so nervous, to just being like, all right, I'm ready for the next one within less than an hour of time. And this is what I love about psychedelics and this work is like, gosh, this shit is hard. It is hard. You have to overcome a lot within yourself to like really be ready to receive these experiences. But through the process of receiving these experiences, you become fearless. You shed your fears. You realize that the things that you fear are actually not scary at all. That the things that you fear are actually the things that hold the treasures that you seek. Yeah, what's that quote I came across actually in Ted Lasso? It was like, our deepest fears are like dragons guarding our deepest treasures. I really feel that to be true. Yeah, you gotta go through the fear, man. Fear. All right, are you guys ready for the full release? We're not even in the full release yet, and I had just such a big experience. But again, yeah, after I received the medicine, same thing. I was completely gone and on my back before they could even count down to 1. This was a full release. This was a 10 out of 10 intensity. I really don't recall much from this one. From Steve's notes, he wrote huge release, rebirth, beautiful opening, joy, playing, wiggling around, child's pose. So this one, I was actually screaming in terror with my eyes fully open, and I don't remember this. And the video of this is actually quite something. It is quite something. I imagine that there was just a lot of screaming. And then after the release, Steve told me that I was actually playing around with this childlike energy. You know, I was on this queen size mattress, and he said that at one point I was at the foot of the mattress, like in child's pose, like wiggling around and playing. And there was just like this childlike energy. They also said that they saw me be reborn, and I'm actually curious about that. I'm going to ask Steve about that rebirth. Like, how do you know someone's having a rebirth when I interview him next? And then as I was like wiggling around on that side, I guess there's actually this really funny video of me like in child's pose, putting my bum in the air, like trying to like move and like just burrowing my face into the mattress, which by the way, I got a carpet burn and I still have the mark, and I now call it my birthmark. It's right there on my nose. And I'm a little bit upset that it's there, but I'm also like, okay, it's okay. It's just my birthmark, and it's a reminder of this beautiful rebirth experience. But yeah, I was just like burrowing around, and then I somehow managed to wiggle myself off of the mattress. It was really funny, actually. And then the first thing I remember coming out of it, I opened my eyes, and again, white light just flooding me, love flooding me, gratitude flooding me, love, 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 love. And then I opened my eyes, and Austin was there beside me. And the first thing that kind of materialized was her eyes. And gosh, we just shared this really beautiful moment, and all I could see was her eyes and how much love was in her eyes. And it made me cry. And I was like, I love you so much. And she was like, I love you so much. It was really special. And yeah, we were just like holding each other's faces. And yeah, you guys, the facilitation and just the love and care by Steve and Austin just absolutely blew me away. I felt so safe, so supported. As you can see, this was a really intense experience, and their space holding was perfection to let me go there. And I felt so safe to go there with them. Gosh, just so much love. Oh yeah. And then, yeah, I was just like in this like childlike energy, and I was like really, the curious psychonaut in me was like wanting to understand this medicine. And I started laughing with Stephen Austin, and I was like, yes, the long game. We're playing the long game, one soul at a time. And I just like really felt this connection to the two of them, that even though we're doing different work in the world, we're doing the same work. And that is the work of committing to expand human consciousness, to expand human consciousness into the place of infinite love, really. And I just, we were joking around with the one soul at a time. This is not something that you can automate. Like, it really is the work of like, it's literally one soul at a time. So yeah, it just like had such a beautiful, connection of seeing each other as like humans and brothers and sisters, and just like on the same beautiful mission. And then, as I came back, I sat up and I was like, wait, how did I end up over here? I was completely off the mattress, and I was like, how did I get up? Again, I have no recollection of the whole scrolling around and moving around. I can only recall it because of the videos. And then I collected myself, and I just said, okay, I'm ready to receive. And again, I was in this whiteout space, lost consciousness, lost track of time and space and doses. And in my mind, I was just there doing a 5-MeO ceremony. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next dose. Little did I know what I had just been through. Little did I know that I just released so much, that I had this full rebirth. So Steve and Austin just looked at each other, and they were like, what do you mean? They were like, you're good. Like, you just had a full release. Like, you just had a rebirth. Like, you did the work. You're good. And then they talked amongst themselves and actually decided to give me one more lower dose to like ground the release into the body. And actually Austin said, also to just enjoy this one and to receive it. And that was really beautiful because that was what the ceremony was really about receiving. So yeah, they decided to give me one more. It was a smaller dose. And again, whiteout, it was apparently very peaceful. Steve said I was just very much at peace. This was probably the most psychedelic one. When I opened my eyes and came back, I had visuals, psychedelic visuals. I was seeing colors everywhere, some visual distortions. And yeah, when I came back, I just said thank you to them. Thank you for the chance to take my time, for letting me enjoy that. And I declared that I'm ready to live like this. I'm ready to live in this state of peace, relaxation, receiving. And this fourth dose was very special to me because it allowed me to already start integrating this idea of receiving, because my mind started coming back and being like, you're taking up too much time. You're taking up too much space. Your ceremony's supposed to be over. You were only supposed to get 3 doses. And yeah, you're just taking up too much time, too much space. And it was like really a practice in receiving. So that was really perfect. So that was the experience. I'm going to go through some of my main insights and just some early stages of integration, and then I'll share a more depth integration episode later. After the ceremony, I was completely fine, able to walk, but the mind is just trying to make sense of what the fuck just happened, right? So we went out on the porch, took in the view of the mountains, the ocean, the sky, the sun, the wind, the trees, just gave them big hugs. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'll go eat lunch now. It was such a bizarre thing to go from like the most divine, honestly, holy, I would use the word holy experience, and then just be like, okay, I guess it's time for lunch now. So I ate lunch, and we actually all took a vow of silence with each other, the participants. So yeah, I just gave an opportunity to just sit with the experience. And yeah, as the mind started coming back online, it was just trying to comprehend everything. And I just took the day to rest and nap. My heart and my body were still in ceremony. I was very much just feeling so much love from the ceremony. And yeah, I'll share some notes from my journal. I was like, I don't know what just happened. It was ineffable. By the 3rd dose, I wasn't scared anymore. Just receive. Life is beautiful. Life is a gift. Allow it. So those were my kind of like immediately after ceremony insights. And we did break our vow of silence at dinner. After everyone had gone through the ceremony, we had a beautiful dinner. Honestly, the food, wow, so good. Yeah, just on that note, like the attention to detail at Enfold, the food, the space, like the little touches, like Austin had friggin' bee propolis just like there for me during ceremony after screaming my lungs out. And I was like, I need something. She was just there with the bee. Like the attention to detail. The breathwork experiences, the meditations are all like bespoke experiences. They're created by Steve and Austin for this work. It's actually pretty incredible how much love and devotion and dedication they have put into every single detail, and they did not skimp out on the food. Wow. Like I just felt so loved being served this food that was made with like beautiful ingredients and with so much thought and care. So I just feel like I have to say that. I'm really touched by the hospitality and the love and care at Enfold. Most of us were just like exhausted and tired and ready for bed by 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And something about 5-MeO is that there are reactivations that can occur. So they warned us about this, and I was like, no, that won't happen to me. Reactivations are moments of flashback, feeling like you are back in ceremony, having this intense feeling that you are back in ceremony. You're back in the room, you're back in the experience. And I actually woke up in the middle of the night with my first reactivation. And what that looked like was in my dream space, I was in ceremony screaming. And I could actually hear myself screaming. And I could hear Austin just being gentle with me and just like telling me to, yes, release it. Yes, go ahead, do it. It's okay. And I just woke up and heard the screaming and had to go back to sleep. And then in the morning I woke up and I started crying immediately. I was crying these tears of gratitude. I was just so happy to be alive. And I was just reflecting on how psychedelics have allowed me to shed so much fear in my life, and how yesterday's ceremony took me from being like so afraid of the medicine to fully open to it, fully open to life, really. And I really felt this urgency of life to live. This sense of, wow, our time here is so brief. We really don't get much time here. We really don't. And with the medicine, I'm doing my best to explain it to you guys. I'm doing my best to make sense of it. But with this medicine, it is really something that cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. And I want to take that with me into my life, right? Maybe life is not something that needs to be explained or is to be explained. Life is something to be experienced. And as a core energy coach, I work with 7 levels of consciousness. And at the highest level of consciousness, we're not really concerned with making sense of life. We're concerned with experiencing life. So this was a really profound integration for me, and it really clicked for me that life is to be experienced. I was grappling with some really powerful questions, right? I was in the space of really this existential opportunity, let's say. I don't want to call it a crisis because it wasn't a crisis, but it was like an existential opportunity to explore, what do I want to do with this gift of life? How do I want to experience this life before I return back to the great mystery, return back to that space that I was in with 5-MeO DMT? I was really cracked open, and I continued to be cracked open for a solid 3 weeks after. This is the first week after the ceremony that I feel like I'm not in that space anymore. I'm still holding it with me, but yeah, it really cracked me open. And the day after the ceremony, we also had a really beautiful sauna ceremony that Austin took us through. Wow, so gorgeous. So much crying. And honestly, that day, I felt like I was crying the entire day. I was just crying tears and tears, just so much love and gratitude. It was like this expression of gratitude, tears of gratitude. And then that was followed by another incredible dinner, which was friggin' lamb chops. I love lamb chops so much. They were so good. It was like this beautiful Middle Eastern spread of just the most amazing food. I have to shout out the food. It was so good. And the sauna smoothie, oh my God. Okay. Enough about the food. Sorry guys, I'm a huge foodie, but yeah, even the next day and the following week, the tears didn't stop, and the reactivations carried on. And there were so many times throughout the day where I was just back in ceremony with Steve and Austin. I was just back in the medicine. I was back in that feeling of love. And I was experiencing my body. I was experiencing it, right? My body was experiencing it. Emotionally, I was experiencing it. But the mind was present, right? So the mind was just being like, how is this possible? How is this level of love possible? I don't understand how this is possible. It was very profound. And yeah, one thing I do want to mention is that I developed a very unhealthy habit this summer, and that was the habit of smoking nicotine vapes. Okay, I picked this up while I was going through a pretty big party summer. I was out and about a lot this summer, dancing, partying, doing all the psychedelics. But it came at a time when I was going through an emotional hardship, but I was doing an elimination diet and I couldn't turn to ice cream, which is what I usually turn to when I'm dealing with an emotional crisis. So I started smoking nicotine. Next thing you know, I'm absolutely addicted, can't stop, want to stop, but can't stop. And I was really battling with this before my 5-MeO ceremony. I knew that this was not who I was. I knew that this was not healthy for me. I knew that at my core, this was not something I wanted in my life, but physiologically, I was absolutely addicted. I tried to quit many times. I stopped buying them, but I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it. And as I was there the day after ceremony, just questioning how I want to experience my life, I was like, this is not it. vaping is not how I want to experience life. Being addicted to this thing is not how I want to experience life. So I actually had a little mini ceremony by the trash can, and I held my vape and I was like, thank you. Like, you helped me through a stressful time. And thank you for what you helped me with, but I don't want you. I don't need you. The stress is lifted and I'm ready to let you go. And I threw that bad boy in the trash bin, even though it was a 6,000 puffer, and I'm pretty sure I only used 2,000 puffs, but I was ready to let it go. So I was really proud of that. And you guys, it's a month later and craving free, nicotine free, no desire. So that was a huge win for me. Left that in the past. I also realized, like, what am I reaching for? I had this question, this, I guess, like, mother intention. Show me what I'm reaching for. And I realized that what I'm reaching for is love on earth. Yeah, love for my fellow humans, for myself, for humanity, for our home. That's really it. And this was such a full circle moment for me, because when I first started exploring spirituality, I realized, yeah, love really is everything. Love really is it. And this was such like an embodied, visceral, felt, emotionally felt, full knowing that that hunch I had when I was in my early 20s was right. That love really is it. Another insight I had was around this, like, I've always been in devotion to love and beauty in my life. Like, I've always been in devotion to it ever since I was little. But the difference between now and then is that I'm giving myself permission to devote my life to love and beauty in a world that doesn't allow me to. And I'm finding ways to allow myself to do that. I wrote this in my journal. I give myself permission to live the life I want to live. I give myself permission to receive all the gifts of life. I give myself permission to be here, and I give myself permission to live in abundance, beauty, and love. And my anchor statement, right, the statement that I walked away from this retreat was, I receive life, abundance, and love. How do I do that? Be present for it. Receive it. So this is all the stuff that I'm integrating, and I feel that my purpose in life has really shifted a little bit. It shifted a little bit. If you asked me before 5-MeO DMT what my purpose in life was, I would have said to experience life, to be fully present for life, for all of life. And yeah, it slightly shifted to experience life from this place of love. How do I stay connected to this love in my heart, to this love that everything comes from, to this love that I got a very small but convincing glimpse of. So yeah, and like this idea of, what does it mean to hold the light? What does it mean to carry the light, or to be the light? So this is all stuff that is just, that's unraveled and unfolded for me after this experience. And it's been so beautiful. And this is why it's taken me so long to be ready to share with you guys, because it's honestly, it's an existential paradigm shift. The way that I view life has really strengthened and changed. Yeah, so the last thing I want to just note on my integration is that, yeah, the first week I did have reactivations. I had Kundalini symptoms, they're called, this like Kundalini rising symptoms. It's an energetic opening. I had body chills, pretty extreme fatigue, drain. I had digestion issues. I could feel energy pulsating in my body, especially in my cheeks and my head. I just felt this like buzzing sensation of energy all over me. And that all ended about a week after the experience. I did have one kind of sleepless night that I think was like the peak, the climax of this energetic process, where I felt energy rising and buzzing in me. It was a little bit scary, honestly, but I just surrendered to it. I trusted it. I trusted my body. I trusted what was happening. And I remember that night I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, and the energy was just really intense. But after this, I think that was like the final big release. After that, the reactivations and the symptoms passed and just stopped eventually. So yeah, I gave myself lots of space. I kept to myself this month. I'm going to my first outing. I'm going to go to a drum and bass show tonight. Kind of nervous about it because it starts around my bedtime, around my new bedtime. But there's been profound nervous system changes that I've noticed. I have not had the nicotine. I have not had caffeine. I have switched over to decaf coffee, which I'm so enjoying. And my Swiss filtered decaf coffee, just deliciousness, so good. So I have my decaf coffee. I'm sleeping really well. I am microdosing Kana, the Lift formulation by Kana Extract Co. It's been so absolutely supportive for me during this time. I've been eating so well. My sugar intake has also reduced. I've reduced my TV intake. I'm doing more reading, more journaling, more stretching. And if you guys know me, you'll find this a shocker. I told my best friend to tell her partner about this, and she was like, oh my gosh, Rob's gonna fall off of his chair when he hears this. I started meditating. I started meditating. I downloaded the Waking Up with Sam Harris app, and yeah, I finally have that motivation and desire to be still. Pretty amazing nervous system changes already. So I'm really excited to see what else comes from this. And during my integration call with Steve, we were talking about after such a nervous system release, I can see that activated was normal for me, right? The nicotine, the caffeine, all the substances, the late nights, the television, the sugar, like everything just to activate me, because activated and dysregulated was my normal. And I do believe that I've had an opportunity to be reset. Is it going to stay this way forever? I think only if I take this opportunity and this time to form new habits and new ways of being to maintain this regulated, relaxed, open, receiving energy. So there you have it. I probably got into the integration a little bit more than I wanted to, but I will do a follow-up in about 5 months, 6 months about my full integration process, give you guys a nice update. Steve will be coming back on the show. I'm really looking forward to getting more into the nervous system side of things with him. If you have any questions that you want me to ask him, please email me or submit them over Instagram and we'll get those answered for you. And make sure you are subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen so that you don't miss these episodes. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend, share it on social media. I think that this beautiful medicine is truly, it is light medicine. Gosh, it's light medicine. It is medicine of light. And I think that those who might be looking for it and are ready for it can experience a profound change in their life, but you got to be ready for it. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions about my experience at Enfold, I am more than happy to share more with you. If you want to know more, you can email me at hello@modernpsychedelics.net, message me on Instagram. More than happy to chat with you. Check out their website. It is absolutely beautiful, just like everything that they do. I'll link it in the show notes. I believe it's Enfold, ENFOLD.org. And yeah, I wish you all the best on your journey. And I hope that, your journey can weave with humanity and the rest of humanity and all of our brothers and sisters, and that we can all just, create a more beautiful, peaceful world together. The long game, baby. All right, signing off. Bye. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting the show. To stay in touch, sign up for my mailing list, which can be found in the show notes or on modernpsychedelics.net. If this episode sparked something within, please let me know by leaving a review of the Modern Psychedelics podcast on Apple and Spotify. This really helps to share these messages with those who need them, which is the whole reason why I do what I do. And if you haven't already, come join the ongoing conversation over on Instagram with other beautiful souls. We have an incredible and conscious community over at the handle Modern Psychedelics. And don't forget that the work begins after you come back down to earth. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, doing it with you. This episode is produced in collaboration with Film with Integrity. They are a values-forward production studio providing end-to-end production from concept to content. They do event video, documentary series, commercial and marketing videos, and of course, podcast production. If you are working on a project that deserves quality of production and content without sacrificing heart and soul, visit filmwithintegrity.com to check out their beautiful work and get in touch with their team.